Hi guys, how's it going? My name is Giulio. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to share 5 tips for any bass player that wants to become a professional session player. I have been playing since 1999 professionally, both in studio and on stage, and I played so many times with so many different bands and artists in many different countries around the world that with the time, going through trial and error, I've learned several lessons, and I want to share with you 5 tips that I think are essential for any bass player that wants to make a living performing live and in studio. The first tip is be organized. And I know you probably heard this thousands of times from so many people, not necessarily musicians or artists, but also from managers, singers, songwriters, producers, sound engineers. Everybody's talking about being organized. What does it mean for a bass player to be organized? For a bass player, contrary to what a lot of people think, is a lot more than just learning your part and making sure that the groove is stable and consistent throughout the concert or throughout the song. Being a bass player is also being that particular person in the band that unifies different instruments. In fact, a lot of the professional gigs that I performed over the years were mostly playing pretty simple bass parts. A lot of the big gigs were playing a few root notes or playing a few bass lines, with the role of the bass player being the jam, being that particular instrument that brings everything together. If you are organized, you know that it's not only about learning the music, but it's also about learning your role in the band and in the project. Of course, you need to be showing on time, you need to be professional, polite, and all the stuff that is given for granted, but you also need to be organized with your music and be very clear about what is your role in the song, in the album, and in the band. I can guarantee you that unless you're playing in a heavy metal band or in instrumental rock or particular technical band that is focused on virtuosity, your role as a bass player will be mostly to play for the song, play for the music. Be humble, but be professional. The second tip that I have for bass players that want to be professional session players is definitely to have an open mind and be extremely accepting. This means that contrary to a guitar player, a piano player, or a singer, you will probably have a little bit less freedom when it comes to writing parts or arranging bass parts. This doesn't mean that you can't be creative. I've been creative thousands of times, even when the bass line was extremely boring, and I managed somehow to always give my own spin to that particular bass riff, to those parts where even just moving one note a little bit forward or a little bit back in relation to the drums, in relation to the song, was making a massive difference. For this, I suggest you to listen to a lot of music from the 70s, in particular funk music. You can go and check guys like Bootsy Collins, or just go and listen to blues from the 60s, where the extremely laid-back feel will give you an idea of what it sounds like to sound behind the beat, or in the case of funk, just a little bit before the beat. All these variations, all these different vibes will ultimately make a massive difference. But you kind of have to stay humble. You can't be saying, hey, I want to play a 10 minutes long bass solo in this song, if that solo doesn't fit in the song, obviously. Unless you're Billy Sheehan and you're playing with Mr. Big, or you are Victor Wooten, or a very virtuosistic bass player, which I love. If you're playing for a professional gig, most of the times you are required to play the part as it is. But even if you stay humble, you can still be creative. So make sure to put a little bit of that spin, that signature choices, sound that will ultimately make a difference and will make people calling you back, looking back for you for the next gig. The third tip for any bass player that wants to be a professional session player is to be also extremely aware of your surrounding. This means that yes, you can show up and play your part and have everything ready with your really good gear, paying attention to what the band leader or the producer is telling you, but I can guarantee you that you're gonna make a massive difference if you also pay attention to the sound engineer, if you look at the crowd, at the audience, if you look at the interaction between the band members, and if you are in studio, if you also show up a little bit earlier and just get a general vibe of what is going on, of what the producer is looking for, of the arrangement of the song in the context of the direction of the artistic production. If you step out and you go a little bit above expectations, you're not just going to make a good impression, you're also going to grow up quicker, both as an artist and as a person. So think a little bit outside the box. Stay humble, as in tip number 2, but also show that you want to learn more than just being a bass player. You want to get a little bit of taste of the different crafts that make a professional musician something more than just a good session player. The tip number 4 for any bass player that wants to be a professional session player is definitely to take care of your gear. It doesn't matter if you're playing a Fender P bass or a Music Man bass or a 6-7 string bass. It doesn't matter what is the brand of your instrument, as long as it shows that you know what are you doing. So if you're playing a cheap instrument and you are the only bass player in your area, make sure to pay visit to a guitar shop and have a guitar person, a tutor, to take a look at your instrument, and first thing, make sure that intonation is consistent throughout all the fretboard. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just think about that having a perfectly in tune instrument or an instrument that sounds good and it sounds that the person that owns that instrument is really caring about whatever comes out sound-wise from that instrument, then you're going to stand out. If you have your own sound, if somebody's looking for you because you are that upright bass player that has that sound that fits perfectly in a bossa nova quintet, or you are that slap guy that can play any funk line, both from the 70s till contemporary jazz, funk, rock stuff, then it means that you have a signature sound. If you have a signature sound, it means that you are taking care of your gear, because your gear ultimately is like the brushes to a painter. You can have as many beautiful colors as you want, but if you don't have the right brushes, if you don't take care of your tools, you're not gonna be able to express yourself 100%, and ultimately you're not gonna be able to bring to the table something unique that will bring you to a different level. You're just not gonna be a session guy, you're going to be a musician that bands and producers love to work with, because you have that sound, that signature sound, and in order to achieve that, you have maybe one piece of gear, one electric bass guitar, one upright, but that instrument has a very defined, clean, clear sound, and you've been taking care of your instrument with anything you get. Tip number 5 for any bass player that wants to be a professional session player, professional studio or live musician, is definitely never stop to grow. And this is one that a lot of musicians have been skipping on it, or they've been kind of confused about it. When people talking about growing as a musician, they think about practicing like 8 hours per day. It's not only about the technique, it's about expand your vocabulary. Vocabulary is the key. It's like if you want to write a book and you know only 50 words. Maybe you are a genius and your creativity is over the top. Even so, you will get immense knowledge, immense advantage just by learning few new words. So, if you are obsessed with blues, if you are a bass player that plays only Motown classics, Why not listen to Latin? Why not listen to funk or even disco lines on bass? Why? Because just by listening to it, your brain, your musical mind will expand and you will get this immense advantage over other musicians that are kind of stuck listening to the same stuff over and over, or even worse, they just listen to other bass players. So if you expand your vocabulary and you stop thinking like a bass player, but you think like a music lover, then you're going to go into a whole different dimension. And package all together this tip with the first 4 tips that I give you, and I guarantee you, you will become a session player, which is also an artist, which is a creative, and is a person bands and producers love to work with. Thank you for checking this video. Please check my other videos and drop a comment below, or just ask me any question, your opinion about these 5 tips for bass players that wants to be professional session players. I'm looking forward to connect with you. Thank you for watching. Ciao for now.